From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Thursday, January 29th, 2015. Silver is trading at $17.85 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,281 per ounce. And according to BitcoinAverage.com, the average price of Bitcoin is $238. Antiwar.com reports early Wednesday, Hezbollah fired 5 anti-tank missiles at an Israeli military patrol along the border, killing 2 troops and wounding 7 others. Israel responded by attacking several Lebanese army bases and killing a UN Observer Force member. Hezbollah officials say the attack was an eye-for-an-eye retaliation for Israel's attack on Syria last week, in which they killed 6 Hezbollah fighters, including their top anti-the Islamic State leader. They went on to try to assure Israel that they aren't seeking further escalation and that the attack was an apparent one-off, not an effort to start a new Israel-Lebanon war. Where Israel stands on that remains to be seen. As with the election looming in March, Israeli officials are all going into business for themselves, trying to champion responses they each see as ideal for their own election chances. Foreign Minister Avigdor Lieberman notably called for a disproportionate response.
For over 35 years, Roberts & Roberts has been a trusted source for buying and selling your investment-grade precious metals. They also take Bitcoin for precious metal purchases and permanently removed the minimum purchase order for all orders paid in the digital currency. Call Roberts & Roberts today for knowledgeable advice on investing and a forward-thinking approach to new technologies. 850-478-5270 or online at rrbi.co.
Reuters reports the U.S. Supreme Court on Wednesday agreed to temporarily block the execution of 3 Oklahoma inmates who are challenging the state's lethal injection procedure. The court's action means that convicted killers Richard Glossop, John Grant, and Benjamin Cole will not be put to death using the sedative which they object to before the Supreme Court decides whether the procedure violates the U.S. Constitution's ban on cruel and unusual punishment. The court's brief order leaves open the possibility the state could proceed with the execution using a different drug combination. Last week, the High Court agreed to hear the case, but did not block the inmates' death sentences at that time. Oral arguments before the High Court are set for April, with a decision due by the end of June. Oklahoma's 3-drug process has been under scrutiny since the flawed April 2014 execution of convicted murderer Clayton Lockett. The inmates challenging the state's procedures argue that the sedative used by Oklahoma, midazolam, cannot achieve the level of unconsciousness required for surgery, making it unsuitable for executions. Del Bache, an attorney for the Oklahoma inmates, said, "The scientific evidence tells us that even the proper administration of midazolam can result in an inhumane execution. The state contends its current drug combination is appropriate and effective." You can support FPP Radio by shopping online. Whether you're looking for precious metals, bitcoins, or books, you'll find that and more at shop.fppradio.com. Every purchase you make from one of my affiliates at shop.fppradio.com helps fund FPP Radio. That's shop.fppradio.com. UPI reports Cuban President Raul Castro said on Wednesday in order for normal relations to exist between Cuba and the United States trade embargo on Cuba must be lifted and the base at Guantanamo Bay must be returned. Speaking at the 3 Summit of the Community of Latin American and Caribbean States, Castro said if these problems aren't resolved, this diplomatic rapprochement would not make any sense. Cuba and the United States have been working towards improving diplomatic relations since December 17th, when it was announced that the 2 countries would reopen embassies with one another. Representatives from each country met last week in Havana to negotiate the reopening of embassies and travel and a greater agenda for normalizing relations. But to reestablish normal relations, Castro says he has some concessions. He said the reestablishment of diplomatic relations is the start of a process of normalizing bilateral relations, but this will not be possible while the whole blockade still exists, while they don't give us back territory illegally occupied by the Guantanamo naval base. Castro also called for the United States to halt the transmission of anti-Castro radio and television broadcasts and give just compensation to our people for the human and economic damage that they've suffered. This has been FPP Radio News, online at fppradio.com.